Hey friends, welcome to Farmhouse Harvest. It is a beautiful late summer, early fall. Hunting season has begun. The flowers are still gorgeous. Love the hydrangeas. Just thought I'd show those to you. I am working in the garden a lot lately with my family. We've been harvesting a ton of potatoes. I did plant the purple potatoes with the purple insides and a few of the red potatoes too. So we got about a bushel of those out of our garden bed. And then today I decided to plant one garden bed with carrots and turnips. Turnips only take about 55 days till you can harvest them, and then carrots are a little bit longer, but you can leave them in the ground through the winter and then just pull them out as you want them. So I am just going to try that out this late summer, early fall, and get these planted and see how it goes. We are in zone 6B, and we usually start freezing here about the end of October. So these should go well, but I will definitely keep you guys updated on how it goes. I did have to fix this drip line myself, and it's the first time I have done that myself without my husband's or my son's help. And I got these planted. These seeds are so tiny that they're actually hard. You really can't plant either of these seeds one at a time. So I just ended up making rows and then sprinkling them in there and covering them up. So I would probably have to go back through and thin them later on after they've come up.
You want to plant them?
So I added another section of drip line in this garden bed. So now there's 2 rows of it all the way across. And then I did have to tie it off with this special clip that they have. You can also tie it off with just taping it, folding it over and then taping it together. But I did get that clip on there. And then I'll just show you how I have my watering system in my garden beds. You can stake these into place, but I like to hold them in place with bricks just because I have extra bricks laying around from the construction of our house. Just holds them in place so that your water is staying about 6 inches away from the sides of your garden beds. Okay, I'm really excited about this. I actually harvested the cabbages that I planted a few months ago, but I left the plants inside the ground for ground cover, and they're actually growing more cabbage heads. So each plant is growing like 2 more cabbage heads each, and they're probably the size of a baseball right now. And I'm just gonna let them keep growing. Cabbages are cold-loving plants, so I think these are gonna actually do really well for a second harvest on my red cabbages before it freezes. And I will definitely show you guys what they look like when I pick them. I'm also letting my kale go to seed. And I have a couple different generations of kale in here, but the seeds are really cool. They have these little pods, and then if you open them up, the seeds are super tiny. And I am just letting these seeds go back into the garden bed so that hopefully in the spring I get some baby kales that are more like volunteers and I don't have to grow them inside or buy new starts next spring. This garden bed was my kids' garden bed last year, and it is just so life-giving. The only plants that I added this year were the sage and the thyme. I had a ton of volunteers. So all the cherry tomato plants, there's probably at least 6 really big cherry tomato plants in here. They're all volunteers. The flowers that came back are volunteers, and they're beautiful. They also help keep bugs away. And so I'm just loving this garden bed. The thyme is a little bit buried underneath all these tomatoes, but it's still doing really well. The sage really took off, and these sweet yellow, this has yellow and red cherry tomatoes in it, but they're really, really delicious. So we're really enjoying that garden bed this year. And of course, I've got my peppers. I'm always planting those for making salsa and eating fresh. We did go to the farmer's market. We love enjoying the farmer's market, especially in the fall, and pick up a few things They haven't got their pumpkins out yet, but we did get apples and we got pears, which I've been preserving. I did make a whole bunch of applesauce and pear sauce. When I'm preserving, I still sterilize my jars, but I do it with bleach water and then just wash them all by hand with bleach water. It's hot bleach water, but it's just a lot easier than boiling them and having to remove them, and just goes really quick. I keep my jars on the top shelf in my laundry room, and I don't put lids on them, so they get pretty dusty inside, and so I just want to get those cleaned out really good and make sure that they're nice and clean. Today I am going to be making a tomatillo salsa. I did not grow tomatillos in my own garden. I have grown them in the past. I've had good years with tomatillos and bad years with tomatillos, but Purdum's is an awesome farmer's market, and it's only about a mile away from my home, and so I did buy a huge bag of those and then some mild jalapenos. I grow jalapenos too, but they are not mild. So for this tomatillo salsa, I actually use this tomatillo salsa to make green chicken chili or white bean chicken chili, and it's one of my family's favorite meals in the fall and the winter months. And canning this tomatillo salsa just really makes it a lot easier, because instead of chopping up fresh tomatillos and jalapenos for your soup, it's already in a jar and you can just skip ahead in the recipe, cook your chicken, add that in there, and then your beans and your extra ingredients. So for this tomatillo salsa, the recipe, and I definitely doubled this, actually more than doubled this recipe, but for 3 pint jars, it is 5.5 cups of chopped tomatillos, 1 cup of chopped green chili peppers, 1 cup of large chopped onion. I just used 2 large onions. I skipped the chopped chili peppers and just used 4 mild jalapeno peppers. It is 4 cloves of minced garlic. I actually used dried minced garlic instead. It is 2 tablespoons of minced cilantro, which I actually just omitted that, and 2 teaspoons of cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 teaspoon of red pepper, and 1/2 cup of vinegar at 5% acidity, and then 1/4 cup of lime juice. I used lemon juice instead of the lime juice. I omitted the cilantro and the red pepper, and instead of using green chili peppers, I used the mild jalapenos. So I did make a huge batch of this, and I did omit a lot of things and then switch out the green chili peppers for the jalapenos, but it turned out really delicious. If you haven't tasted tomatillos, you're really missing out. It's kind of like a tomato, a green tomato, but it has a very citrusy flavor, and it's super fresh and just delicious in any kind of Mexican food or with Mexican food, especially if you're going to add lime juice, which we always garnish our green chicken chili or white bean chicken chili with lime wedges, and it's just refreshing and delightful in the fall. I really used to be a little bit I was a little overwhelmed by canning, water bath canning even, but this year I have just realized how easy water bath canning really is. As long as you're following the recipe, the process is really simple, just making sure your jars and lids are clean. Follow your recipe, fill your jars, leave an inch of head space, get the bubbles out, clean your lid, your rims with a little bit of vinegar. And then I like to make sure that my water is just barely warm when I put my jars in there. I have broken so many jars water bath canning where I put a jar into hot water and the jar was not hot enough. So I have learned just to wait to heat that up, or just let it be on warm until I put my jars in there. But this recipe is super easy, and I love having it on hand through the winter time. So this made a huge pot, and I am just cooking it down before I put it into my jars. It kind of has air in the tomatillos, so they'll float to the top if you don't cook them for a few minutes and let them saute a little bit, and then mixing in the onion and the jalapeno with those tomatillos. you can kind of get an idea for the texture of it, but it really does get a lot more liquidy the longer that you cook it. So I'm just adding in my seasonings, which are the onion, the garlic, the salt, and of course it's cumin and red pepper, which I omitted this time. And then I did use lemon juice concentrate instead of 1/4 of a cup of lime juice. Just cleaning those rims with some vinegar and make sure that there's nothing on there so that the jars can seal well, and get those lids fitted on and then hand tightened with the bands just to finger tight, and then those will go into the water bath canner. One problem that you might run into when you're cooking or making canning recipes is it doesn't always make a full batch. And so what I do in this case is I just fill up a quart with water and then fill that empty spot in the water bath canner with a jar that's just full of water so that they don't move around too much when they're boiling. One thing that you always have when you're cooking from scratch or when you're producing things and water bath canning or pressure canning, harvesting, is cleanup. The kitchen is always in need of being cleaned up around here. We make huge messes. You can't see it all on video, but I get food all over the floor. I get food in every crack and crevice on my stove. I get it in my drawers, everywhere. So I am constantly needing to clean up my kitchen, but it's totally worth it to me to be able to grow my own food or buy from a local farmer and then produce something that is healthy and satisfying. Thanks for following along. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, and we'll see you next time.